Now, when it comes to our next story, we are going to discuss about Sony Pictures Animation. And what perfect timing to talk about the studio, considering that for the first time in over 8 years, they have released an original animated feature in theaters, specifically with GOAT. And the reception that it has been getting so far, it's been okay. So far, everything about it feels like it's just been okay. The reviews of critics have been okay. The reaction of audiences have been okay. Even with how it's doing at the box office, it's just doing okay. It's like doing a little bit better than what Markiplier did with Iron Lung. So far, GOAT is already on track to becoming a movie of the year. So in that regards, okay, well, at least it could have been worse, I guess. But with that said, however, there is also a little bit of sad news that is related to our subject with Sony Pictures Animation. With the fact that GOAT is now officially released in theaters, there is also a report that an anticipated animated feature that they have been working on is no longer going to be happening and has been confirmed to be canceled. So with that said, let's go and discuss about Matt Brawley's movie. Yes, the creator of the Disney series Amphibia, Matt Brawley, has confirmed on social media, mainly on his Instagram, that the animated movie that he was producing or that he was working at Sony Pictures Animation with Rebecca Sugar helping him out to go and write the script has now officially been canceled. And to go further into the details of what happened, I'm going to go and read you specifically on the post that Matt Brawley put in on Instagram, which is from my source here on Variety, to which it states right over here, "At the very start of 2025, I received the unfortunate news that the movie I had been working on for 2+ years at a major animation studio would not be moving forward. I'm super proud of the lovely script that Rebecca Sugar and I wrote together, and I'm disappointed that you will all likely never get to see the film. I had a really supportive development team, but the film was ultimately judged as not commercial enough to produce. I understand these decisions are not made lightly, and I have nothing but respect for the studio, which continues to put out amazing films. The movie was about a teen boy traveling to the world of Thai spirits in order to cure himself just before undergoing a very scary and life-altering operation necessary to live. This was not a story about finding a cure so much as it was about learning to accept one's unchangeable circumstances with grace and, oh, excuse me, folks, and realizing that a different life than expected can still be a wonderful one. It was a deeply personal story for me as I was diagnosed with an incurable chronic illness at a very young age that brought permanent changes to my lifestyle. Not only that, but it would have been an honor to bring more Thai culture to the big screen, a torch I hope someone else picks up. Today, I would like to share just a small bit of the artwork that we created during development. Hopefully you can close your eyes and imagine how cool the film would have been if completed. I won't lie. This decision really knocked the wind out of me for a few months, and I struggled to find enthusiasm to be creative again. With some space thought, I think the experience has strengthened my resolve about what I'd like to pursue next and how I like to go about doing it. Thank you for your support, and please stay tuned for the next day for the announcement of my next project, which we will get to a little later. But for now, let's go and check out the artwork that he posted here. And as you can see, this is a lot of character designs of those who would be appearing in Matt Brawley's movie. So you got the protagonist here, both in his casual wear and also dressed up in his hospital gear. And then you got a spirit that might be more antagonistic or a little bit more creepy with a little temple for a head and his eyes literally popping out of his skull. Then like you got a bunch of cute little like seed or acorn characters, just little round dudes. That's basically the best way to describe them, little round dudes. And then we also got two artworks from this goddess, basically this Thai goddess with 6 arms. So she would probably play a major role in the picture or have some great significance. Then you also got a monkey character who is just sitting on a rock, just looking up with his big hat just beside him. And then you also got an old dragon who could be best described if Sisu from Raya and the Last Dragon would become 1,000 years old. This is probably what she would look like. And then you also got this happy-go-lucky Thai spirit, like dressed up as a full-on strong Thai warrior with his skin full-on red and has some tusks where his canine teeth would be. Just small tusks with some rings on it. And there's even a 3D model of this particular character where you also see that he has a missing leg. So as you can see, the image can also spin. So you got all those images of what could have been in that particular feature. But if I might as well go and get this out of the way also. If I may quote the Enchanted Tiki Room, every rain cloud has a silver line. And in that regards, the next day, Matt Brawley officially made his announcement of what he is going to do next, to which he decided that he's going to step away from working with mainstream studios after being disenchanted by not just Sony, but all the others as well, like with Netflix, with Warner Brothers, with Disney, and all that kind of stuff. And he's going to be opening his own independent studio called Fantasy Projects, in which the first cartoon that he's going to be working on is called Clara and the Below, which is described as, from Amphibia creator Matt Brawley, an animated gothic horror spin on the Nutcracker, full of wintry chills and somber vibes. And right now, he has an entire Kickstarter set up for this particular series, in which you could go and be notified on when this is going to begin, because the Kickstarter will officially start on March 13th at noon Pacific time or 3 p.m. Eastern. So this is pretty much to go and say that for now, when it comes to Matt Brawley himself, like, he did need some time to go and recover after his passion project was pretty much canceled. But still, though, he is doing fine, and now he's going to be taking another step and ready to go and start his own project, completely separate from all the works that you would find in the mainstream. So basically, he just needs a moment to completely separate himself from the mainstream system so that he can work on his own independent animated project, starting with Clara and the Below. So just thought I'd give you the heads up on that. And again, go to Kickstarter if you want to go and be ready to know when the campaign is going to activate if you want to go and support this project. But going back into what Sony has done, the fact that they have canceled Matt Brawley's movie at Sony Pictures Animation, honestly, I feel like this is something that, like, I'm a bit surprised, but not surprised as well. Because it is shocking to hear that with this project in particular, they decided to completely can it after it has already gotten a lot of positive reception from animation fans. Like, people were really hyped up for it, especially with the people who were attached to it. I mean, it's not just with the Amphibia creator, but I mean, you also got the creator of Steven Universe, Rebecca Sugar, also being involved to go and write the script for it, to see what else they could really go and do in order to truly explore this new original world. They already built up that hype. They already made the announcement that they got them on board to go and work on the movie and stuff like that. But then suddenly, all that work seems to just be for nothing and just completely drop it. Basically, the hype now officially means nothing and they don't really want to go and pursue it, mainly because of the fact that they told him it just wasn't commercial enough to go and sell. But funny enough, though, another reason why I'm rather surprised that they decided to go and drop it is the fact that, this would have been a great opportunity for Sony to have their own K-pop Demon Hunters. And I know that sounds very silly of me to say, considering that K-pop Demon Hunters was done by Sony Pictures Animation, but I mean a K-pop Demon Hunters that they could fully own. They've already established that they could do amazingly well, or they could do great when it comes to making a movie that could really highlight an Asian culture, such as the case with K-pop Demon Hunters, in which they found great success with highlighting Korean culture, both like the long history of it and also the modern culture with K-pop and stuff like that. And this could have had a great chance to be the Thai equivalent to K-pop Demon Hunters, where it could really highlight Thai culture, honoring the myths and legends of its past, and also the modern culture of Thailand that it is now. Or I don't know if it would be Thailand or Taiwan or one of the two, at least. I'm not as familiar, and if I am mixing that up, I do apologize, by the way. But this could have been a chance to do like some kind of spiritual successor to K-pop Demon Hunters and learn the lessons of what they got right for that movie and how that became a big success. And they could also apply that to what Matt Brawley was doing at Sony Animation with his movie. But alas, I guess they decided, nah, that ain't the case. But with that said, though, I'm also not surprised at the same time, because Sony Animation really has a tendency to overhype projects that ultimately they would just not do in general. Now, I'll state right now, yes, I know for a fact that it is very common. In fact, it's more common for a project to get canceled in a major studio than for it to actually get made and to be released. We see this all the time, and every single studio that you could imagine, they do the same thing as well. It's not just Sony, but they also do this at Disney, at Pixar, at Illumination, at DreamWorks, at Paramount, at Warner Brothers, at Skydance, just about every single one you could think of. This happens all the time. It sucks, but that's just part of filmmaking. That's just show business, if you will. But the thing that is different with Sony compared to everyone else is that Sony has a tendency to go and announce their projects way too early. Like, they would go and announce them even before they would go and get greenlit. And this is something we've seen often, where they try to go and build hype on whatever upcoming projects that they would go and do. Ultimately, after a few years, suddenly they would decide, nah, you know what? We're just not going to go and do it. We saw this with Genndy Tartakovsky's Popeye. We saw this with Lauren Faust when she wanted to go and make her Medusa movie. And we've seen this like a few times again and again from Sony. It's just the big difference is that with Sony, they would go and like announce it way too early with what they want to go and do. So they should have a tendency to like at least tone down until they are more confident that this is going to be made. I mean, yes, this does happen with the other studios. Like, it happens with Pixar, or it happens with Disney, it happens with DreamWorks and stuff like that. But those are extremely rare, though. Like, it's more common to see this happen with Sony than it is with the other studios, because Sony, again, they have a tendency to go and announce their projects way too early, even before they would go and get greenlit. Now, with that said, though, even though, yes, this is very disappointing to hear that a great potential project would ultimately get canceled at a studio like Sony Pictures Animation. But it is worth noting, however, that I feel like this is kind of a sobering moment where for animation fans and especially for the cartoon community, this is for them to really go and open their eyes and to see the reality about Sony Pictures Animation. And that is the fact that really, even though I might get some backlash for saying this, but you have to face facts, Sony Pictures Animation is actually not that different from any other major animation studio out there. They are no different than Walt Disney Animation Studios. They are no different than Pixar. They are no different from DreamWorks. They are no different from Illumination. They are no different than any other studio out there. And the reason why I want to go and emphasize this is mainly because of this weird perception from the cartoon community in which they always push Sony to look like that they are far greater than what they actually are. Because one of the big issues with the cartoon community is that they currently have this narrative going on in which they are freaking out about animation is just dying, that it is now in a catastrophic state, and that at some point the entire industry is just going to completely collapse and just be gone for good. And they are just so desperate to try to go and find a savior, if you will, to find a new champion of animation that is not Disney. And they would really latch on to go and find some kind of messiah, or even look upon YouTubers, not just myself, but even people like Shafrillas or Saberspark or Pan Pizza, Cartoonshi, Cellspecs, or any of those people, and look at them as martyrs who would go and bring animation to the direction that it should be and go against the evil creatives that tried to ruin animation with AI and all that kind of crap. So they're really desperate to try to go and find some kind of savior. And when they do find one, they put them at such an impossibly high pedestal. Like, they've done this many times with Glitch Productions, for example. But another one that they have done a lot is with Sony Pictures Animation, where you would find plenty of YouTube videos in which people are saying that, oh, Sony Animation is now the new kings of the industry. They're going to take over animation. They're going to destroy Disney. When that could not be further from the truth. And they're only expressing that because of the movies that they have released. Like, rather it be those that have received critical acclaim, like the Mitchells vs. the Machines or the Spider-Verse films, or because of the big success that we have seen with K-pop Demon Hunters, because those films, they feel like they emphasize the narrative of animation is cinema. But the truth of the matter is that it is possible for Sony Animation to still make subpar or even bad movies. I mean, don't forget that around the same time as K-pop Demon Hunters, Sony also put out Fix. And we saw the reactions of those, where many people even went beyond what I've done in the past with the whole Sony Animation hate phase. But at the same time, not only do the quality isn't always perfect every single time, but also they would also make these business-like decisions that you would hear criticism towards Disney or any other company out there. Again, they're really not that different from Disney, where yes, they would go and cancel projects that would have great potential, like what we have seen with Matt Brawley. They would also have a tendency to go and really push franchises down to the point where they would go and exploit them and really run them to the ground, such as the case as what we are seeing with Hotel Transylvania. Even though, like, that series has been long done, even before Transformania, that franchise was pretty much dead. But now they're still trying to push for a new Netflix series for it, and the possibility of trying to make a fifth movie out of it. So if you want to talk about unnecessary sequels, Sony is still pretty guilty of it. But then there is AI. And I know that's a major criticism that a lot of people love to use to go after Disney, and justifiably so. Like, yes, yeah, Disney has been pretty bad with trying to go and trying to implement AI whenever they can, even though like a lot of it is just theoretical. But that doesn't mean that Sony is any different, though. Like, we know, we have seen reports in the past that Sony Pictures has expressed that they really want to be on board with implementing AI onto their projects. And on top of that, Sony Animation has also expressed this as well. Now, I would like to go and bring your attention to this article here from The Hollywood Reporter. It is called Sony Pictures Animation Bosses on K-Pop Netflix Plans, Spider-Verse Pressure, and Betting on GOAT. Now, this is basically an interview with the heads of Sony Animation, specifically Christine Belson and Damien de Froberville, in which they've discussed, of course, they've talked about GOAT, which the main thing is to go and promote GOAT. But at the same time, they've also discussed about the future plans of K-Pop Demon Hunters and that the sequel may not be coming out in 2029. It could be a little bit after that. At the same time, they discuss about the current progress of Beyond the Spider-Verse, as well as discussing about the possibility of working with Genndy Tartakovsky again, even after Fixed. But then there is this last question that they were asked that I would like to bring your attention to, which is right over here, in which it states, are you integrating AI in your workflow? In which de Froberville states, AI is a sweet tool that we are at some point will explore and probably leverage. It seems today Gen AI is not directable enough for what we do. So basically, that's not a no. You know, this honestly sounds a lot like what Disney would go and respond. It's that kind of PR answer that you would expect, in which it would go and, you know, just bring love and support to all the human artists out there, that human creativity is far more important, but they would never go and say no. In fact, it kind of reminds me a lot of what Josh D'Amaro, the future CEO of Disney, actually stated about AI, in which he would give a lot of love to artists and animators and to all the human workers at Disney, but he would never specifically say no on AI. And it's kind of the same thing right here. They're not saying that they are opposed to using AI in a Sony animated feature. So this is all to go. And by the way, I just want to go and mention that this is not a slam on Sony Pictures Animation. Like, even with all this, they're still a solid animation studio, and I've been enjoying a lot of their recent outputs. Like, I am a big fan of not just the Spider-Verse films, but also with Vivo and Mitchell's vs. the Machines. But but with that said, though, even though, yeah, they're not really that different from studios like Disney or Illumination, they're still a solid studio the same way that Disney and Illumination are still very solid studios. This is more of a slam of the cartoon community's perspective of Sony Animation and the way that they put them on an impossibly high pedestal, trying to say that they are the new champions or that they will be the people that will destroy Disney or any of that kind of stupid crap, to go and keep bringing up their ridiculous narrative of that they are the saviors of animation. Like, that is a little too exaggerated. It's kind of like the opposite spectrum of when I was that Sony Animation hater, except you get like a lot of those same attributes. A lot of it just comes from entitlement and pretentiousness, where people are just so desperate of wanting to take animation seriously, and they think that something like Spider-Verse or K-Pop Demon Hunters will do that, when in reality, it's not. And when you look into the behind the scenes of it, they're really not that different, and they could do those same unethical practices even in regards to stuff like AI and stuff like that. So really, it's just that's just something that really needs to be brought up, especially like with all those videos that keep coming out of it that overhype Sony, or that they would weaponize Sony in order to attack Disney and Pixar and stuff like that. Really, it's like it's nothing but a false narrative. And again, it's part of the problem with how the cartoon community can be nowadays. Like, yo, if you think that I was bad as like during my Sony animation hate phase, you need to see how the cartoon community is right now. And yeah, they're at the brink of imploding. I'm just saying, eventually, like, there needs to be a time we need to have a serious talk about the problems of the cartoon community. So with that said, by the way, I'm going to go onto a little break just to go and have a refresh on the timer, because I know I talked a lot, but when we do come back, however, we will go and discuss about this. I'm going to go and read your comments, and we'll look into the chat wall on what they have to say about the entirety of this whole situation, with Matt Brawley's project being canceled at Sony Animation, and the current state of how people view Sony Animation, and that it's, you know, a lot of it is driven by hyperboles and false perspectives of who they actually are. So stay tuned for that. All right, welcome back. So now let's see what the chat wall has to say about this entire news with Matt Brawley's canceled Sony Animation movie. So let's see. You're telling me that the creators of Amphibia and Steven Universe were making an animated movie and Sony canceled it, and they canceled it because they didn't know how to market it. Did Sony's marketing team find the leftover stupid pills that their creative team took when they made the Emoji Movie? First, they gave up K-pop Demon Hunters franchise rights, and now this. Do they want to keep paying Disney Spider-Man's licensing fee? You never know. It could be a yes. And not to mention, by the way, like, I know some people are commenting of like, does Sony it's like, do you guys regret what you've done? Do you realize how stupid you were with K-pop Demon Hunters? You know, the funny thing is, if we do go back to this Hollywood Reporter article, like, they did talk about K-pop Demon Hunters, and like, no, they're not showing signs of regret whatsoever. They're still trying to hype up that, yeah, you know, it's great that it's doing well on Netflix. Netflix is the perfect platform for K-pop Demon Hunters. Who needs theatrical releases when you got Netflix? Okay, maybe they didn't say that last one, but they're not showing regrets. They're trying to present themselves like they're doing all the right moves with K-pop Demon Hunters and giving it away to Netflix. So just thought I would give you a highlight on that. But again, if you want more accurate details, please go and read this article here. Anyways, let's see here. Hearing about Matt Brawley's Sony Animation project being canceled was pretty heartbreaking to hear, and absolutely sucks that Sony Pictures decided to do this. Guys, if you want future projects to not be canceled, go see Hoppers, go see Hex, go see Forgotten Island. I don't want to hear that Hoppers or Hex flopped and animation fans online attacking it because of a stupid nitpick. This could cause a chain reaction, so please go and support original films, and yeah, Sony Animation isn't perfect either. I'll even add that, honestly, if you want to go and support more original films, like right now, there is an opportunity to do so. Like, go and watch GOAT on the big screen. Again, like, this is something that I've been saying for years. Like, regardless of their quality, regardless of how you may think, if you want to see more original animated features be made and be released in theaters, go and actually watch them. Go and actually check them out. At least do so for the principle of it. Like, maybe it might not come out great, but at least at least you could go and support, and maybe it'll have a better chance to go and actually do well in order to spin off new franchises and encourage more original stuff going. Again, like regardless if it would be GOAT, which is out right now, or any of the upcoming ones like Forgotten Island, Hexed, or Hoppers, or anything like that, it's more like, if you really do believe so, like if you really do believe in more, if you, sorry, I keep tripping on my own words, but what I'm trying to say is, if you really do support original animated features and you want to see more of them, instead of just jumping into bandwagons on social media and just repeating whatever content creators would go and say online, just go and watch it yourself. Like, seriously, actually think for yourself instead of blindly jumping on bandwagons and repeating what reviewers would go and say. Because that way, you'll get less sequels and more original stuff when you take your own actions instead of just blindly doing or blindly repeating whatever social media would go and say. Especially if you're on Twitter. You need to spend less time on Twitter in general. Let's see. I've been dealing with people who get triggered by the idea of AI because they argued it was predictable that it would replace jobs. What I wish to say in this situation is that there should be some regulations into the use of AI so that it won't replace human contributors altogether. Well, in a way, that's a bit of a different subject altogether, and that's like, you need to go and talk to your representatives in order for them to go and push for legislations that would protect people from AI, or especially that you need to go and like support unions, because so far unions have been the greatest weapons against AI. And I mean, we've seen like in the past few years how effective that they can be and how much of an impact that it can cause in terms of fighting against AI. I mean, like when we saw the big strikes, whether it be with writers, with actors, or with animators, or whatever, they were doing this just for fun. Like, they're doing this in order to protect their livelihoods, in order to protect the passions that they love to pursue. You know, that's why. Like, if you want to fight against AI, call your representatives and support unions. And that's the key factor in which sooner or later, we will see the downfall of AI as we know it. All right, so let's see. This is such an unfortunate thing to witness, though there's a bit of a poetic irony regarding the cancellation of this project, because some people on the internet were continuously attacking Disney as a studio that makes nothing but slops, while supporting Sony as the new Pixar. But now that this film got scrapped because it didn't look commercial enough, Sony suddenly looks just as bad as the studio that they despise, at least in their eyes. Exactly. Like, this whole thing is nothing but sheer reactionary and just blindly jumping on bandwagons because their moral compass is the algorithm or how many likes that they would go and gather, whether it be on Twitter or Facebook or anything like that. Again, if people are going to go and argue that, oh, Sony is the new masterpiece cinema or whatever, like, can we also discuss about, like, what the hell did you guys do with freaking Fix and stuff like that? Like, do you guys keep having memory lapse? Do you guys have, like, serious short-term memory loss or something? Because honestly, like, with this whole situation, the problem is not Sony. It's freaking you and the people that you listen on YouTube or on social media. Again, this is why the cartoon community needs to watch more movies instead of watching more YouTube videos. Let's see now. I have to say, the animation community really has a rivalry syndrome. They like to praise some creators or some animation studios like gods, but if they're involved in the animation industry, they should know creating an animated project is very, very hard, like dealing some business and work environments. Creating a masterpiece not only needs talent and effort, but also the ability to deal with upcoming obstacles and outcomes. Exactly, and that's a massive problem that the cartoon community has, is that they only see what's on the surface. In fact, many, if not most, of the people that are doing, that are creators, that are online personalities such as myself, even the bigger ones, they can only see what is on the surface. I mean, there is a reason why cartoon reviewers in general are massively hated by animators in the industry. And like, they even hate me. And honestly, I don't blame them. I understand why. And honestly, with the massive Disney hate that we've been seeing so far, and even the over-exaggerated love for Sony Animation, that's only causing more harm than it actually is doing good. Again, this really is like witnessing everybody else in the cartoon community doing what I did with the Sony Animation hate, except the targets are now a little bit more different. And that's why right now the cartoon community is increasingly becoming more and more unpopular, as well as creators such as Shafrillas, Saberspark, and many others. In fact, it's part of the reason why you see some, like Shafrillas, distancing himself from regularly talking about animation. All right, let's see. I'll read. What else is there to go and read here? Did I do? Oh no, I don't think I did this one. This is definitely disappointing. This animated film definitely had a lot of potential. Amphibia, one of my favorite animated series. I've recently seen Matt Brawley did a great job with it, and with Rebecca Sugar. It could have had potential, so it really is unfortunate. But it is something that happens in animation, and I do hope Matt Brawley will move on and do good things with his new studio. Let's see. I think I'll read one or a few more comments, and then we'll move on to the next break and the next story. Let's see now. I am shocked that Sony has scrapped Matt Brawley and Rebecca Sugar's passion project. The fact that they worked on this movie for less than 2 years is just baffling. How Matt Brawley will do his own indie project, but it's just so stupid that Sony will not let this project shop to someone else. If this movie sold to Netflix and it becomes a big hit, Sony will lose $500,000 and Netflix will become the dominant streamer, like it did what happened with K-Pop Demon Hunters. All right, let's go and read one more here. Let's see. Remember when Disney Animation announced that they have removed an original film from the schedule in favor of Moana 2, and everyone collectively lambasted them? This is no different, guys. Just from the premise, this sounded like a really intriguing movie, and this really needs to be a wake-up call that Sony Animation is not a flawless studio. Remember the Emoji Movie and Smurfs? I could have a full list. I was like, oh, Sony is perfect. Really? Then explain the Emoji Movie. Explain Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Explain the Smurfs. Explain The Star. Explain all of these movies that they have done. Explain the Hotel Transylvania films. Your argument does not have any merit. Anyways, but even more sad breaking news, we just lost legendary actor Robert Duvall at 95. Oh man, that's unfortunate. I saw little bits and pieces of that news, but that is sad, man. Didn't have time to go and prepare for that, but may Robert Duvall rest in peace. I know the dude's a legend as an actor.